Welcome to the Straight Talk on Fleet podcast with Erin Gilchrist. Each week, Erin will be breaking down fleet management, trying to cut through the noise and get down to the real issues safety and operations leaders are struggling with every day. The goal will be to get to the bottom of how leaders can break down these silos of information, accelerate change management, how to use real-time, accurate data to drive massive efficiencies across fleet-focused business processes, and to elevate people's careers with emerging best practices. Now it's time for the Straight Talk on Fleet.
Hello again, Fleet community. We are back for another episode. Yes, so excited of the Straight Talk on Fleet. I'm Erin Gilchrist, and I am the VP of Fleet Evangelism at IntelliShift. So on my podcast, I try to be your objective and reliable source of information for our fleet ecosystem based on real experience that comes from managing a huge enterprise fleet for over 15 years. So I know and you know that fleet management is hard, probably harder than it needs to be. So what I try to do is break it down our style, fleet manager style, with a focus on everything from driver behavior to compliance to getting more from our internal and external partners and our data. So good stuff. Today, we are digging into a really important topic, KPIs for fleet management. So essentially, it's my belief that our KPIs should demonstrate to our organizations how effective we are as fleet, operations, and safety teams, right? Because these all tie together. And I consider KPIs as sort of a guide that helps us make good decisions to improve our fleet operations, right? Improve efficiency, reduce cost, have safer fleets, right? So I guess before we dive in, so how are you measuring success today? I'd love to hear about it. Do you have metrics that you're held accountable for? And how do you know if you're doing a great job? So, ponder that. I'd love to hear from you on that. Comment below, get a hold of me directly. Love to hear. So I think focusing on baselines and needed improvements in this area of safety, efficiency, and cost will help you develop those solid KPIs for managing your fleets. So even though we have all kinds of different challenges to solve, I think those key areas will keep you focused on the right performance indicators. So identifying our KPIs is one thing and meeting them is another, as we know. So the key here is having systems and partners who can consolidate and integrate and steward your data in a way that makes it easy to access in real time with this the sort of visibility you need so you can track and manage the exceptions that can throw your performance completely off track, right? So I feel like 6 has been that magic number lately, right? We've been talking about 6 ways to do that and 6 ways to do this. But lately in my podcasts, I've been using the number 6, so we're sticking with that today. So today we're going to talk about the 6 key strategies or the 6 key KPIs that I believe all fleet operations and safety managers should be tracking, right? So let's see which of your KPIs are on this list, right? So number 1 is fleet safety and driver behavior. Number 2 is compliance. Number 3 is fuel. Number 4 is maintenance. Number 5 is fleet cost. And number 6 is vehicle life cycle. So those are the 6 I'm going to be digging into today. So for me, I thought about the best way to track my fleet at the beginning was sort of looking at things overall and holistically. And while that's important, and we'll talk about that, I think profiling your fleet is the best thing to do so you can drive results in each type of fleet that you're operating. So when I think about measuring my fleet, I think about looking at it by segment or profile. And I've talked about this in prior podcasts, but let's think about profiling our fleet as a way to better manage each and every asset, right? So some examples. So if you have a fleet that has light duty vehicles, medium duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, you think of vans, you've got out doing one type of job, vans out making deliveries, box trucks. Think about your fleet as fleets within the fleet, right? So those are those profiles that I'm talking about. So when you profile your fleet and segment your fleet, sales and operations leader vehicles versus technician and very technical upfitted vehicles going out to perform a service. Larger vehicles used to transport material, like distribution type of assets. So when you profile your fleet, you can treat each of those fleets a little bit differently. They operate differently. They have different chassis. They're driving different miles. They have different types of drivers, right? So when you look at it that way and run these KPIs for each of those profiles, that gets your finger on the pulse in a little bit more granular way so you can better manage your fleet. So, and I'd love to talk more about that with you. And anytime you want to contact me to talk about profiling your fleet, I'd love to discuss that. Something we did years ago in my former life as a fleet manager that was suggested to me by one of our analysts who I think, hit the nail on the head that we cannot treat the assets in the fleet the same. So you can develop these 6 KPI headings, and then you can use those in each of the profiles of your fleet and really, really drive results that way. So as always, I'm going to start with safety. Having a culture of safety in your organization will drive positive results in every area of fleet management. So I always like to start there. So we are going to start with number 1, again, which is fleet safety and driver behavior. So of course, under fleet safety and driver behavior, we're going to look at accident rates, accident cost, right? So for accident rates, the number of accidents times 1 million miles divided by the number of miles driven for a period gives you that rate. Accident cost, damage and injury, the key here to driving home a safety program buy-in and partnering is to show how much revenue needs to be generated to cover the costs of accidents. So that really helps operational leaders get on board with your safety program, right? When they realize the work they're going to have to do to generate enough revenue to, make up for the cost of an accident, yikes. Driver safety scores should absolutely be a KPI by organization, region, market, location, down to those levels and tied to operations leaders' pay and incentives. So let me stop there for a second. When drivers drive safely, you're protecting your drivers, your organization, your vehicles, your reputation, your cost. So when you can tie those metrics to the actual managers of the drivers, those operational leaders or those safety leaders in your organization, them having that accountability will get them on board with you, right? And that's the key here, is getting them on your team and helping you to drive these initiatives that are going to make these KPIs successful under driver safety. So do what works for your business, but I would highly recommend a combined score for compliance and safety. Inspections and driver behavior, both aggressive driving and distracted driving. Again, that takes a tech stack like telematics, AI video to get you there. So again, recommending that as well. Accident rates and cost metrics that we talked about, just think about also in that vehicle downtime, in measuring with your partners how long the vehicle is out when it's involved in an accident. So really work with your partners in this arena to drive down that downtime metric and hold them accountable. So put that in your SLAs with your accident, provider, your accident management provider. And if you're doing some of that in-house, again, really holding yourself accountable for getting that vehicle back on the road and back to its original condition in record time so that it can be productive. And again, referring to episodes 3 and 10 under fleet sustainability and safety culture, I think will help in this area of KPIs around fleet safety and driver behavior. Kind of how do I go about fleet sustainability for my workforce, for me as a fleet leader, for certainly the fleet of vehicles. And then safety culture really helps you drive this whole organizational way we work type of mentality around safety. So Again, great things to do as you develop these KPIs or report on these KPIs or try to get buy-in is really think about how you're doing as it relates to sustainability and safety culture for your fleets. But happy to provide those outlines to you from episodes 3 and 10. Okay, number 2, compliance. So this is either with company policies, government mandates, both, right? Depending on your fleet, you may have complex regulatory mandates with which you need to comply. So the key here is reporting and metrics to measure your driver and vehicle compliance, both internally and with any of the mandates. So some of those things, inspections, and DBIRs. So digital inspections with reporting to manage the percentage of compliance by overall organization, by area, region, division, however you're structured, down to that driver level. Because I'll say it a million times, intuitive digital inspection tools help drive safety, help drive better results in maintenance, are really the foundation to any successful fleet management program, our vehicle inspections. So a great thing to measure. Also critical to success is DOT and maintenance programs, right? I mean, we're going to talk more about that here, but compliance in DOT and compliance in preventative maintenance are core to your fleet management programs. The digital inspections will inform needed maintenance on the vehicles, and there are means by which to complete those maintenance tasks, both critical and non-critical. So again, having a good and digital inspection tool, so when a driver reports something, that maintenance can happen right away, especially when it's something that could affect a roadside inspection. Driver qualification compliance metrics. Think training, driver certifications, DQ files, medical exams and cards, etc. So think about those regulatory things and having a way to measure those, and then certainly alerting operators and operators leaders as to when we're out of compliance on those things, so that can be rectified quickly. And then again, another episode that I shot on vehicle inspections is episode 8. This is a great place to go to get a little more in depth on how vehicle inspections can affect your overall fleet maintenance programs, your overall fleet management programs, and certainly these particular KPIs around compliance. Number 3. Okay, so fuel, a hot topic always, right? One of the largest ongoing fleet costs. You can't avoid it. So the KPIs here should really be focused on fuel efficiency of the vehicles, and then really help you to dig in on how to address the behaviors and practices that affect the vehicle's efficiency, right? So targeting efficiency to find outliers and address behaviors that are driving down your MPG performance is important by total company, area, again, whatever your structure is, down to that driver level. Another episode that I want you guys, lots of things you guys can refer to here, is episode 13 on fuel management. Loved this episode because it touches, just every aspect of fleet management. But I would encourage you to give that a listen or a watch to dig in on effective fuel management that can help drive and make you successful on these KPIs around efficiency for fuel, consumption, emissions, miles driven, cost per gallon performance, meaning in what areas and by what drivers and leaders are you paying too much for fuel, right? This is something that you can manage and behavior you can drive results in with the right partnerships. And then, don't want to leave out the percentage of fuel fraud to your overall spend, right? And again, I talk a lot about ways to manage fraud in that episode 13. So, and I just want to top off this idea of fuel KPIs with this notion that, and I've said this before, that organizations that are allowing the price of fuel to dictate their focus on green initiatives, sustainability, fuel management, overall cost, have their head in the sand. Okay. If you have an effective fuel management program, it will transcend anything that's going on in the marketplace. There'll be other things you can do, but I'm going to tell you, you have the right fuel management partner, the right program, you're measuring the right things like we're talking about here today, and the right behaviors around safe driving, then you will not feel the impact as heavily as someone who's letting fuel prices dictate how they focus on green and fuel. Okay. Safety is the key there. Focusing on safety will drive down fuel cost. Okay, because it's driver behavior, and behind the wheel driver behavior affects the efficiency of the asset. We all know this. So that's the focus area. And then again, measuring these critical KPIs for fuel and keeping your finger on the pulse that way. Okay. Number 4, maintenance. So targeting vehicle downtime is really important. So whatever partnership that you are using for maintenance, I think this idea of the cycle time to get that vehicle back on the road after a maintenance event is that 48 hours. You can look and see how you've been doing, benchmark against yourself, benchmark against other fleets, but this is where you build SLAs in with your maintenance shops and your suppliers to hold them accountable for that cycle time for vehicle maintenance events by vehicle maintenance event type, right? I think that it's measurable. I think that we should be pushing our partners to help us with this, because a vehicle that's sitting is non-productive, and that does not help anyone. So targeting cycle time and vehicle downtime as a maintenance KPI, great idea. I will say that what's out there in the ecosystem is that the average cost of vehicle downtime can range from about $450 to $750 a day. So know what that is for your fleet. Okay. Back into that measurement, get help, work with people within your organization, but try to understand what it costs when you have a vehicle down for an hour, down for a day. So when you know that, you can drive better results, hold suppliers, drivers, operations leaders, and everybody in that cycle time process accountable for their part in it to get that vehicle back on the road as soon as possible. So that's really important. Back to PM compliance, probably, one of the most critical KPIs as part of your overall fleet management and maintenance. KPIs, really being able to report out at every level of the organization where vehicles are overdue for PMs. And again, if you listen to, I think it's episode 6 where I talk about vehicle maintenance, I spent a lot of time talking about how to do this in a proactive way, how to drive PM compliance in a proactive way, and how to think about combining services when you can. So work with those partners, internal and external partners, to, if your vehicle's going in for an oil change and it's slightly overdue for another service, and you've got another service that's coming up due, combine them, right? Reduce that downtime, get those services done, get that vehicle back on the road and productive. So PM compliance, cycle time and vehicle downtime, negative trending around vehicle performance by make model, right? And really holding your suppliers accountable when you're seeing negative trends in performance and trying to dig in and find out why, okay? So the keys here to being good at KPI management for maintenance is having the right tools, the right partners, a driver app that can drive great behaviors, automated reminders for service. Again, organizational KPI down to the driver level. And I'm going to say this for every single one, right? It's getting everyone who has a part in the KPI, fleet, operations, safety, held accountable by really giving them their data at their level and a way for them to manage it, right? Which again, really goes back to this idea of a single connected platform for managing your fleets. But we'll close out with that. Again, refer to episode 6 on comprehensive maintenance management to dig a little bit more into sort of how do I get those results on maintenance KPIs that I'm looking for, that I deserve as a fleet leader. Okay, number 5 is fleet cost. So this is that overall expense control to maximize the profitability, right? You're not a cost center, remember? You are a a revenue generator in your organization. So when you think about overall fleet expense, think about it in terms of maximizing profitability. So we talked about that, right? When we talked about vehicle downtime, be able to put numbers around the ways that what you're doing is impacting the organization in a positive way: efficiency, safety, cost. Okay. So for overall fleet costs, the goal is continuous improvement year over year. Track performance against budget, right? Benchmark against yourself in those profiles we talked about. If you have your cars versus cars, trucks versus trucks, vans versus vans, right? So benchmark against yourself inside your profiles, against other fleets in the industry. If you can, again, using that profile type of methodology. So TCO, that calculation, we should consider the upfront cost of the asset and then every expense that it will incur in association with the asset throughout its entire useful life, right? And then minus the remaining value of the property. So, TCO is something that, you can benchmark year over year. I think the key to overall fleet cost KPIs is tying in overall fleet cost to operational KPIs, right? We've talked about that already today, but this is going to increase buy-in and compliance around the things that you're trying to drive, your initiatives. Because when operations leaders can connect the dots between their operational KPIs and their fleet KPIs, everybody wins. All right. Think about a fleet scorecard for the organization, your regions, your divisions, your stores. Okay. Let's do an example here. So you have a service fleet. So this idea of tying that operational KPI into the fleet cost. So fleet cost per mile. So who's driving the miles, right? The drivers, and they're working for the organization within those units, business units. So that fleet cost per mile. The overall fleet cost for the customers you're going to serve. So think about a service fleet who goes out and does mobile customer service, right? So taking overall fleet cost divided by the mobile customers that we're serving, right? Great idea, because operational leaders can say, wow, every time I go out and serve a customer, it costs me this much. The profit margin that they have, we're cutting into that. The fleet costs are cutting into that. But when you can show them how reducing fleet costs improves their profitability, ta-da, right? Fleet cost for units delivered for a distribution fleet. So, same concept, right? When those distribution leaders can go, okay, so when every time I make a delivery, or every time I deliver, for every unit that I deliver, here's how the fleet cost affects my performance and my profitability. There you go. Also think about doing gallons per mobile customer served, or gallons per units delivered. Okay. Again, getting people on board with your fuel initiatives, right? Maintenance cost per mile, really great metric. Maintenance cost per mobile customer served or units delivered. So every time that you can really connect the dots between fleet and operations and the way that each unit measures themselves, when you bring that together, that puts that operational leader in the seat to help you drive results for the overall fleet cost KPIs, right? So love to talk more about what you're doing if anybody's doing that. I think it worked very well in my prior life, and would love to hear about what you're thinking about in terms of, operational and fleet costs being tied in with those types of KPIs. And then again, it's comparing month over month, quarter to quarter, year over year. It's great to use for forecasting, right? So these total fleet cost KPIs. So, a lot of businesses, they're doing that comparison 6 and 6, 7 and 5, 8 and 4. So when you're 8 months through the year and you've got 4 months to go, they're saying, okay, how have we performed for these first 8 months, or 6, 7, or 8 months? How do we forecast we're going to do the balance of the year? At that point, that's when budgeting happens. And these are things to consider. Think of things that have changed in the environment, maybe maintenance labor costs, tire pricing, etc. But having good data and good KPIs will help you be a great contributor to your upcoming year's budget. So as your company starts to evaluate how you're doing and getting ready to look at next year's budget, you can provide all this great data and information so you make sure that you're budgeted correctly and that you're considering things that your organization won't be thinking about as it relates to overall fleet cost. Okay, number six, vehicle life cycle cost and vehicle replacement. Again, that's total cost of ownership by segment is a great way to look at that. Look at year over year vehicle performance trends, cost of ownership, safety ratings, fuel economy reports, right? That's all out there, right? Use TCO models down to the cost per mile level to make better selections for vehicles, right? This kind of data helps you decide what vehicles you're going to buy, right? Not only when they need to be replaced, but when you go to replace them, what are you replacing them with? So having that modeling at your fingertips and using the models and analysis to build that strategy around lengthening vehicle life in this current environment, right? So when you have this kind of data and you know that you're stuck with your vehicle fleet, right? Being able to use those TCO models down to that CPM level, that's going to help you figure out the best strategy around keeping used and aging vehicles in your fleet. So model your replacement cycle based on your realized cost and trends with industry models and data, and consider things like vehicle availability, right sizing your fleet. You have the right number of assets where you need them. Don't forget to consider reusing upfit components to reduce cost and continue with optimal replacement cycles when you can get vehicles. Again, so in this environment, that vehicle life cycle costs and vehicle replacement KPI models will really help you make great decisions. And then, for now though, as we think about, hey, I can't even get vehicles, again, looking at the other KPIs we've talked about today, when you get really good at driving safely, that prolongs vehicle life and it increases vehicle efficiency so you can make those assets last longer because you can't get new ones right now, right? So kind of to summarize a little bit, again, KPIs should be customized for your business, what's important, why and how they'll be measured, and will these metrics help you make better decisions for your fleet and for your business, right? And I think the how is really critical part of setting KPIs and metrics and goals, right? The best way to capture the most relevant and accurate data, reporting, analysis to shape your success, right? Measurement strategy is to work with a partner who can provide a solution that can consolidate all the relevant data into a single platform so that you can impact your cost, your safety, your efficiency every day from one reliable source. Okay. Talked about that so many times. I'll never stop talking about that because that's now, right? So, and that's part of the how of being really good at setting and measuring KPIs and goals and metrics. Use fleet intelligence data analytics to hone in on the most important factors to address and drive down cost, improve operational efficiencies across your organization. Generate core reports so your team can use these to build budgets, drive compliance, and report on KPI progress and success. Again, it's just easier to do this stuff when you have a good data steward partner, right? If today you have to go into three or four different point solutions to try to gather this data, or have to export it to spreadsheets to cleanse it, and then to get to your numbers, right? You need to reassess your tech stack if that's where you are right now. I just shot a podcast that will publish here soon on replacing your vehicle tech and tech stacks and tech partners when they're not performing. I know it stinks, But if you are in this position of swivel chair management, going to a bunch of different solutions that are point solutions and trying to gather all this information yourself, reassess, my friends. It is so worth it, right? I mean, would you benefit from using one partner that has all the data you need in one place with real-time KPIs available on a dashboard? I'll answer that for you. Yes, you would. So just, really think about that as you're framing up, how to succeed in these areas of fleet safety and driver behavior, compliance, fuel, maintenance, fleet cost, vehicle life cycle, right? That's what we talked about today. But again, easier said than done, but a lot easier when you have a single connected and integrated platform where you can have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your fleet every single day. And when you can do that and you can drive those right behaviors, your KPIs will be on point, on track, and you can be the hero in your organization, and really be successful and really get that trust and buy-in from the organization so you can continue to bring new things to the table and bring new initiatives and bring new tech and have that C-suite going, yes, you can do that. We trust you because you've proven yourself, right? So thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's topic on the key metrics that all fleet managers and safety and operations leaders should be thinking about and should be measuring. And I would love to hear about your what and why and how on building KPIs for your fleet. So if you've got questions for me, connect with me on LinkedIn or via email. I'm erin.gilchrist@intellishift.com. Again, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you can like or subscribe or comment or share within the fleet community. And that's where the fun starts, right? So I'd love to be able to hear what you're doing. So until next time, folks, keep it real, keep it safe for fleet's sake, and thank you for listening.